that we have STS set up, we're going to go through the steps necessary for an operating session. The first thing we're going to do are go through the before operations task, which is to generate and fill car orders and reposition empties. This slide and the next one cover the major steps in the shipment's life cycle. And these are the things that the STS will help us with the simulation, because these are a lot of these things that we don't normally do in a model railroad. STS helps with this back office work by simulating customers ordering cars. It recommends which cars you can use to fill those car orders. It helps you route the loads and the empties. STS also helps with the loading and unloading of cars, and we'll talk about that in the third video. Before we actually get into the ordering of cars, we want to look at a couple of reports that STS generates that can help you figure out about how many cars you're going to need on the railroad to cover the shipments that you've set up in the database. We've got two of them. One is how many shipments will take place. And by shipments, I should say how many cars will be ordered. And this is sorted by customer. And then the second report will help you figure out how many cars of each kind you're going to need. Now you'll notice here that as far as shipments going out, nothing happened until the fourth operating session. And that's because of the way the shipments were set up in the database. Now every report like this is just a forecast, and because it's based on random numbers, it can change from time to time. As you see, I pushed the refresh button on that report a number of times, and it came up with different values, although not too different. You see the average is still about 33, 34 cars. The car loading forecast reports about the same information, but here it's sorted by car type. And so this will give you an idea about how many cars of each type you'll need on your railroad to fill these out. Once again, you notice it takes a little while for the simulator to get going. 10 boxcars are required by all the different customers that use boxcars. So the first thing that they do is in the first operating session where they ordered cars, which is the fourth session, they ordered 2. These cars were ordered, filled, moved, and spotted for loading. The next operating session, those 2 cars are now loaded and moving to their destination. However, 2 more cars were ordered, so that means we need a total of 4 cars on the railroad so far. Operating session 6, we have another batch of cars that were ordered. So in this case, only 1, but we've got the 2 from the first session 4, 2 from session 5, and 1 from session 6. So now we know we need 5 boxcars on the railroad to be able to handle all this. If the 2 cars that were ordered in session 4 have been unloaded and were able to be used again, then we can get by with just 3 boxcars. Session 7, we have another 2 boxcars that were unloaded and ready for shipment. Those are the ones who were ordered in session 5. We still have that one car from session 3 moving, and now we have 2 more boxcars. So again, we'll need 5 boxcars on the system. Again, this is just an estimate, but it will give you an idea about how many of each type of car you will probably need in order to run the railroad based on the data you entered for your shipments. So let's order some cars. To do that, we go to the Generate Car Order link, click on the Generate button. Oh, but look, it didn't order any cars. It's because our shipments probably aren't going to order cars until second, third, or fourth operating session, just because of the way they were set up. Now, if you notice in this example, on operating session 3, it did order 6 cars. So we're going to take a look and see what kind of cars were ordered. Here's a list of the cars that were ordered. You can see we've got 3 general service gondolas, a boxcar, and 2 covered hoppers. The 3 gonds were ordered for a shipment of gravel from Northwest Aggregates. The boxcar was ordered for a shipment of packaging material from Ball Packaging in Chicago. That's going to the canning plant in Emerald. And then we have 2 covered hoppers loaded with cement that are going to the bulk cement plant in Emerald. Once we have the car orders generated, now it's time to fill them. So if you go to the Fill Car Orders link in the Before Operations section and click that link, you'll see a list of all the unfilled car orders. And on the left-hand side, there'll be a fill button by each one. Once you click that fill button, another screen will pop up that will show you all the cars that meet the qualifications required to fill that car order. In this case, those general service gondolas. And we've got quite a bunch of them. We've got some in St. Paul, and we've got Chicago. Now, for our very first car order, which for one car, one of those gons, the computer has recommended that we use the one that's in St. Paul because that's already, you can see it's already checkmarked. If that's fine, you can click the Assign button. It'll fill that car order with SUE line 66999. And then you go on to the next one, and you repeat this until you have all the car orders filled. You can either accept the ones the computer recommends, or you can choose your own. Once all the car orders have been filled, we should go and check them out. You go to the car order screen, and it will show you all the car orders. And in this case, if you want to cancel a car order, you have to do it before filling that order. Once you've assigned a car to the order, it can't be canceled anymore. You can go into the database itself and do some fiddling, but that's probably not a good idea because there are all sorts of things that could go wrong. In this case, that first car order, as you see, has been filled with SUE 66999, and the cancel button on the left-hand side, it has been grayed out, so you can no longer cancel that car order using the normal screens. Now, as far as repositioning empty cars, if you have any empty cars at customer sites, this is where you would need to route them to their next location. If they haven't been needed to fill car orders, then you would do a reposition order and tell the system that you want to route that car to a yard someplace where it can stay until it's needed. You can also use this reposition empty car function to stockpile cars in a certain location in anticipation of needing them in the future. So, for example, in our system here, we have the cement plant in Emerald receiving cement from a cement distributor in St. Paul. So we could pre-position a bunch of empty covered hoppers, cement hoppers in St. Paul. That way we wouldn't have to track them down on different locations of the system and send them to St. Paul for loading. We'd already have some there getting ready to be loaded. Once we have our car orders filled, now we can display waybills. And you can either print these if you want to use paper, or you can just use the online format for them. Here we see a typical waybill. Now, when a shipment is filled, you'll typically get two waybills for it. The first will be a non-revenue empty car waybill, and that will route the empty car from its location to the place where it is to be loaded. Once it's loaded, the second waybill comes into play, and that's the revenue waybill that routes the car from wherever it was loaded to where it's going to be unloaded to its ultimate destination. If a car is at the same station as where it will be loaded, you won't see an empty car movement waybill. You'll see just a little memo that will go to the crew saying, take this car off, take the car XYZ off track 2 and spot it at the customer's site. So if like I said, if the car being used to fill a car order is at the same station as the shipper, there won't be a non-revenue waybill generated. Just be a memo. There will still be a revenue waybill generated to forward that car on to its final destination.